Marcus Chen had always preferred the night shift. While the world slept below, he kept watch over the Blackwood Observatory, perched high on Mount Solitude like a stone sentinel against the stars. 37 years old, unmarried, and perfectly content with his solitude, Marcus found peace in the rhythm of his nocturnal routine, checking the automated telescopes, monitoring weather systems, ensuring the delicate instruments remained undisturbed. Tonight was different. The October sky promised the year's most spectacular meteor shower, and even the automated system seemed more active than usual. Marcus settled into the control room with his thermos of coffee, watching data streams cascade across multiple monitors. The Perseid remnants would peak around to AM, painting brilliant streaks across the desert sky. At 1:47 a.m., the radio telescope began picking up something unusual. Marcus frowned at the frequency display. Instead of the cosmic background radiation and distant pulsar signals he expected, a rhythmic pattern emerged from the static. It's not random. Cosmic noise, something deliberate. The pattern reminded him of Morse code, but with mathematical progressions that made his engineering mind race. He adjusted the receivers, fine-tuning the signal. The pattern grew stronger, clearer. Fibonacci sequences, prime numbers. Then something that made his coffee cup slip from trembling fingers, his name, spelled out in the same mathematical language. Mars. The control room suddenly felt too small, too warm. Marcus loosened his collar, checking all the equipment. Twice. Everything functioned perfectly. The signal continued, now incorporating his employee ID number. His social security number, details no random cosmic phenomenon could possibly know. Outside, the meteor shower began in earnest. But these weren't normal meteors. They moved too slowly, changed direction mid-flight, and pulsed with colors that had no business existing in Earth's atmosphere. Azure blues that shifted to deep purples, silver lights that seemed to respond to his thoughts. The radio crackled. Not static this time, but a voice, feminine, melodic. Speak in perfect English with an accent he couldn't place, as if she'd learned the language by listening to 1,000 different speakers from across the globe. Marcus Chen, keeper of the Watcher's Post. His hand froze over the response microphone. The rational part of his mind cataloged possibilities. Elaborate prank, military test, sophisticated hoax. But his gut, honed by years of reading instrument data, told him this was real. Observatory security, 2 unknown caller, he managed. Please identify yourself and your location. Soft laughter filled the control room, coming not just from the radio, but somehow from the walls themselves, the air around him. I am Nix, and my location is... complicated. I've been watching your facility for quite some time, Marcus. You have such dedication to your vigil. Even when you think no one notices, you're here, faithful to your post, listening to the cosmos. Through the observatory's great dome, those impossible lights continued their dance. Marcus realized they weren't random meteors at all, but something or someone performing an intricate ballet across the night sky, just for him. Watching me? His voice cracked slightly. From where? From closer than you think, Nix replied, her voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones and much, much farther than you can imagine. Tonight, Marcus Chen, your vigil ends. Tonight you become something more than a watcher. Tonight you become the watched. Lights outside began descending toward the observatory, and Marcus knew his ordinary life was about to end forever. Luna Vasquez hadn't slept properly in 3 months. The insomnia started when she moved to the Whispering Sands trailer park, a collection of weathered aluminum homes scattered across the Nevada desert like dice thrown by a careless god. She'd come here to escape the noise of the city, to find silence for her art, but the desert sang to her in frequencies she couldn't ignore. Tonight, she sat before her easel at 3 a.m., painting by the light of battery-powered LEDs. Her latest canvas showed impossible landscapes, crystalline forests under twin moons, cities that floated on clouds of silver light, beings of pure energy dancing between the stars. She painted these visions every night. Though she couldn't remember dreaming them, the paintbrush trembled in her hand as exhaustion finally claimed her. Her eyes closed, and immediately the dreams began. She stood in a vast chamber of living glass, walls that pulsed with bioluminescent veins. Before her materialized a figure both beautiful and terrifying, tall, ethereal, with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that held the depth of nebulae. When the being moved, reality seemed to bend. Around her, colors shifting into spectrums Luna had never seen. Luna Vasquez, the figure spoke, though her lips didn't move. The words formed directly in Luna's mind, carrying emotions and concepts language couldn't express. "Your art has been calling to us across the void. Who are you?" Luna asked, surprised. She could speak in this dream space. "I am Vega, messenger of the Far Collective. But your paintings, they depict our worlds with impossible accuracy. How do you see what you have never witnessed?" Luna looked around the crystal chamber, recognizing it from a painting she'd completed weeks ago. "I don't know. The images just come to me. I thought they were from my imagination." Vega moved closer, and Luna felt warmth that transcended physical sensation. "Your species calls it imagination, but you are receiving transmissions. Your mind is naturally attuned to dimensional frequencies most humans cannot perceive. You are painting our memories, our histories, our homes." The chamber dissolved, replaced by the scenes from Luna's paintings. They walked together through crystal forests, where trees sang in harmonious chimes, across floating cities, where beings of light tended gardens of pure energy. Each vista was exactly as Luna had painted it, down to the smallest detail. "Been watching Earth for millennia," Vega explained as they traversed a bridge of condensed starlight. "Most humans broadcast only noisphere, anger, chaos. But occasionally, we find minds like yours. Artists, dreamers, visionaries, who can receive our transmissions clearly." "Why show me this?" Luna asked, reaching out to touch a flower made of crystallized music. "Because your art is becoming a beacon. Other sensitive minds are drawn to your paintings. They see truth in your visions, even if they don't understand why. You're preparing your species, Luna, helping them imagine possibilities beyond their current reality." Luna woke with a gasp, back in her desert trailer. But on her easel sat a completed painting she didn't remember creating it. Perfect portrait of Vega standing in the crystal chamber, holding what looked like a small star in her palm. At the bottom of the canvas, in handwriting that wasn't quite her own, were the words, "For those who dream of tomorrow." Luna stared at the painting, then at her hands, still stained with paint she couldn't remember using. Outside, the desert wind carried whispers in languages that predated human civilization, and she knew her role as an unwitting messenger had only just begun. Captain Jim Hawthorne had tended Beacon Point Lighthouse for 12 years. Ever since retiring from the Coast Guard, the automated beacon needed little maintenance, but the isolation suited him perfectly. Perched on granite cliffs overlooking the storm-lashed Maine coast, the lighthouse stood as humanity's last outpost before the endless Atlantic. Tonight, Hurricane Delilah battered the coast with unprecedented fury. Jim monitored weather reports from his cozy keeper's quarters, listening. 280 mph winds howl around the lighthouse's stone foundation. The automated systems handled everything emergency broadcasts. Shipping lane warnings, coordination with Coast Guard vessels riding out the storm in deeper waters. At 4:17 a.m., every electronic device in the lighthouse went silent. Jim grabbed his emergency flashlight, checking the generator first. Running perfectly. The power lines from shore had been severed by the storm, but backup systems should have maintained minimal operations. Instead, every screen was dark, every radio dead. Even his battery-powered weather radio produced only silence. He climbed the lighthouse's spiral stairs to the lamp room, where the massive Fresnel lens should have been casting its warning beam. Instead, he found something impossible. The lens itself glowed with inner light, but not the familiar white beacon. Soft, opalescent colors swirled within the glass blues and purples and golds that seemed to move with liquid intelligence. Jim watched, transfixed. The colors coalesced into a shape. A woman materialized within the lens itself, as if the glass were a window into another dimension. She was tall and elegant, with features that seemed carved from moonlight. Her hair, moved like sea foam, and her eyes held the deep green of ocean trenches. When she spoke, her voice carried the sound of distant waves. James Hawthorne, guardian of the shore. Jim stumbled backward, nearly dropping his flashlight. That's impossible. Can't be in there. The woman smiled, and the lens pulsed brighter. I am Tidal, emissary of the deep current. Have watched your vigil for many years, Captain. Through storms and calm seas, you have maintained your post. You understand duty? Jim's voice cracked like a teenager's. Those who swim between stars, who ride currents you cannot see. We have observed your species' relationship with the sea, how you both fear and love its power. You more than most understand that the ocean connects all shores, all peoples. The lighthouse beam suddenly blazed to life, but instead of the normal rotation, it remained fixed on a point far out to sea. Following the light, Jim saw something that made his breath catch. Shapes moved beneath the storm-tossed waves, massive forms gliding through the depths with impossible grace. As lightning illuminated the scene, he glimpsed what looked like underwater cities, their bioluminescent spires rising from abyssal plains. Your oceans are highways, Tidal explained, her form becoming more solid within the lens. Passages between worlds, connecting civilizations across distances your physics cannot measure. We have used them for longer than your species has existed. Jim gripped the lighthouse railing, his knuckles white. Why are you showing me this? Because humanity stands at a crossroads. Your species spreads across the land but remains largely ignorant of the deeper waters. Soon, you will need to choose. Remain isolated on your small islands of awareness, or learn to navigate the greater currents that connect all life. The shapes beneath the waves began rising toward the surface, their forms becoming clearer. Ships or submarines, but living vessels, organic craft that move through water as naturally as whales. Beings similar to Tidal stood on their surfaces, all turned toward the lighthouse. You have been chosen as a herald, James Hawthorne. Your lighthouse has always guided travelers safely to shore. Now it will guide your entire species toward a new understanding. The storm began to subside with unnatural speed, winds dying too. Whispers, emergency radios crackled back to life. But now they carried new messages, reports of similar sightings from lighthouses and coastal stations around the world. Remember, Tidal said, as her image began to fade from the lens, the deepest currents always lead to safe harbors for those brave enough to navigate them. The lens returned to normal, casting its familiar white beam across calming seas. Jim knew the ocean would never look the same to him again. Dr. Petra Kowalski had been listening to the cosmos for 15 years, but tonight the cosmos was finally listening back. Deep beneath the Colorado Rockies, in a classified SETI facility known only as Station Echo, she monitored radio telescopes around the globe, searching for patterns in the cosmic noise that might indicate intelligent life. The bunker-like facility housed her alone. Her colleagues rotated shifts. But Petra preferred the 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. slot. The isolation helped her focus on the subtle mathematical structures hidden in seemingly random signals. Night. However, the signals weren't random at all. At exactly 3:33 a.m., every radio telescope in her network detected the same transmission simultaneously. Impossible, given the speed of light and the distances involved, but the data was undeniable. A complex mathematical sequence, repeating across multiple frequencies. Growing stronger by the minute, Petra's fingers flew across her keyboards, analyzing the pattern. Prime numbers? Yes, but arranged in spirals that formed three-dimensional structures when plotted. Geometric shapes that resembled DNA helixes, but with additional dimensions her software could barely render. Computer-run pattern analysis on current signal cluster, she commanded. Pattern recognition complete. The AI responded in its neutral tone. Configuration matches theoretical models for 11-dimensional mathematics. Origin point everywhere. And nowhere. Recommend immediate notification of department heads. Belay that order, Petra said quickly. Something about this signal felt personal, meant for her specifically. Continue analysis but maintain communication silence. The facility's environmental systems suddenly hummed differently, as if harmonizing. With the alien transmission, fluorescent lights dimmed and brightened in rhythm with the signal pulses. Even the coffee maker in the break room began gurgling in mathematical sequences. Then the main communication console activated itself. Dr. Petra Kowalski, a voice spoke through the speakers, neither male nor female, but containing multitudes, like a chorus singing in perfect unison. Your dedication to listening has not gone unnoticed. Petra's hand hovered over the emergency alert button. This is a secure facility. Identify yourself and explain how you accessed our systems. I am. Known as Cosmos, though names are limitations, we rarely use. As for access, we've built the mathematics your technology depends upon. Your computers speak our language more fluently than they speak yours. The main display screen flickered, showing not star charts, but impossible vistas, galaxies spinning. Like pinwheels of light, nebulae that breathed like living lungs, stars connected by streams of pure information. Through it all moved beings of crystallized thought, their forms shifting between energy and matter as needed. You've been searching for us, Cosmos continued. But we have always been here, in the spaces between your numbers, in the frequencies. Your instruments almost detect. Your species stands at the threshold of understanding, Petra. You personally have brought them closer than any before you. How long have you been watching us? Petra asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. Since your first radio transmission, you heard Marconi's signals, Edison's experiments, every broadcast your species has ever made. Most of it is noise, but occasionally, very rarely, we detect minds capable of true communication. The display showed Earth from space, covered in a web of radio signals, television broadcasts, internet traffic, but woven through the chaotic human transmissions. Were other signals elegant, mathematical, clearly artificial? You've been sending us messages, Petra realized. Hidden in the background radiation, in pulsar signals, in cosmic microwave patterns. For 73 years, we have been trying to teach your species our language. Most humans cannot perceive it, but you, Petra, have been unconsciously incorporating our mathematical principles into your search algorithms. Your improvements to SETI protocols, your pattern recognition innovations, they were inspired by our transmissions. Petra felt a chill of recognition. Her breakthrough discoveries had always felt like remembering rather than learning, as if the knowledge had been waiting in her mind for her to notice it. Why reveal this now? She asked. Because your species has reached a critical point. Your technology is beginning to detect our presence directly. Soon the choice will be forced upon you: acknowledge that you are not alone, or retreat into willful ignorance. We prefer to make contact on our terms, with individuals capable of understanding the implications. The screen showed more Earth-like. Planets scattered across the galaxy, each surrounded by similar webs of communication. Hundreds of worlds, thousands, all connected by the same mathematical language Petra had been unknowingly learning. Welcome to the conversation, Dr. Kowalski, Cosmos said as the transmission began to fade. Your real work begins now. The facility's systems returned to normal. But Petra's databanks now contain terabytes of new information, star charts showing inhabited worlds, mathematical principles that would revolutionize physics, and most importantly, protocols for establishing formal diplomatic contact. She stared at her screens, understanding that she held the future of human civilization in her hands. Benjamin Rivers had been a small-town journalist for 23 years, content to cover city council meetings and high school football games for the Millbrook Gazette. But over the past month, his quiet existence had been shattered by a series of impossible stories that no reputable newspaper would touch. It started with Marcus Chin's report from Blackwood Observatory's strange signals and unexplained lights during the meteor shower. And Luna Vasquez's bizarre paintings began circulating. Online, detailed depictions of otherworldly landscapes that seemed too real to be imagination. Captain Hawthorne's account of entities rising from the ocean during Hurricane Delilah had been dismissed as storm-induced hallucination, and Dr. Kowalski's sudden resignation from SETI, citing philosophical differences, had raised eyebrows in the scientific community. Now Ben stood in an abandoned radio facility outside Millbrook, following coordinates that had appeared mysteriously in his email, along with a message: "If you want the truth, come alone at midnight. Bring your recorder." The October night was unnaturally still, as if the world held its breath. Ben's flashlight beam revealed rusted equipment and broken windows. But as he approached the central building, lights began flickering on not electric lights, but a soft bioluminescent glow that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Inside, he found them waiting. Marcus Chen stood beside a pristine radio console that definitely hadn't been there during the day. Luna Vasquez sat at an easel, painting something that hurt Ben's eyes to look at directly a canvas, showing the exact scene he was witnessing, but from an impossible perspective. Captain Hawthorne examined navigation charts that showed ocean, depths beyond any earthly sea. Dr. Kowalski worked at a computer displaying mathematics that made Ben's head spin. "Mr. Rivers," a harmonious voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere. "Thank you for coming." The air shimmered, and Ben found himself facing 5 figures that his mind struggled to process. They appeared almost human, but wrong in ways that triggered every instinct to flee. Too tall, too graceful, with features that shifted subtly when he wasn't looking directly at them. Their leader, if that's what she was, seemed to be composed of starlight and shadow. "I am Echo," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in his bones. "These are my companions, Nyx, Vega, Tidal, and Cosmos. We represent the far collective civilizations that have watched your world since before your species discovered fire." Ben's recorder was running, though he didn't remember turning it on. "Why reveal yourselves now?" "Because humanity has reached a critical juncture," Echo replied. "Your technology is advancing rapidly. Within a decade, you will develop instruments sensitive enough to detect our presence directly. We prefer to introduce ourselves gradually, through prepared individuals." She gestured to the 4 humans. "In the room, Marcus has been our radio beacon, Luna, our visual interpreter, James, our maritime herald, and Petra, our mathematical translator. Each has prepared a segment of your population for eventual contact. And me?" Ben asked, though he suspected he already knew. "You are the witness, the storyteller. When the time comes for full revelation, your species will need someone they trust to explain what has happened, to put the pieces together." The walls around them became transparent, revealing the night sky, but not as Ben had ever seen it before. Streams of light connected star to star, a vast network of communication spanning the galaxy. Earth sat at the edge of this network. First, tentative signals just beginning to reach the nearest nodes. "Your world is not unique," Echo continued. "Intelligence arises wherever conditions allow. We are teachers, guides, gardeners of consciousness. When species reach technological adolescence, we offer them a choice: join the greater community or remain isolated until they're ready." Ben looked at the 4 humans, all of whom watched him with knowing eyes. "What happens if we're not ready?" "Then you continue as you are, and we remain invisible until you evolve further." "But Ben, your species shows remarkable potential. Your creativity, your diversity of thought, your emotional depths, these are rare gifts in the galaxy." The recording device in Ben's pocket grew warm, and he realized it wasn't just capturing audio. Somehow, it was recording everything. Impossible sights, the alien mathematics, the emotional weight of first contact. "The choice will not be yours alone," Echo said as the figures began to fade. "But when your leaders face the evidence, they will need a voice of reason. Someone who understands the gradual nature of our revelation, who can explain that we have always been here, watching and waiting." "What if they don't believe me?" Ben asked desperately. Echo smiled, and it was like watching a sunrise. "You wait. Truth has a way of surfacing, especially when it's been carefully planted by those who understand the value of patience." As the beings vanished and the lights faded, Ben found himself alone with the 4 humans who had been chosen as Earth's first ambassadors. In his pocket, the recorder held evidence that would change everything. The world was ready to listen. Marcus looked at his radio equipment, still glowing with alien technology. Luna stared at her completed painting, which now showed the 5 alien figures standing among the stars. Hawthorne consulted charts that mapped not oceans, but the cosmic currents between worlds. Dr. Kowalski reviewed data that would rewrite physics. Textbooks. So, Ben said, looking at each of them in turn. Who wants to go first? Outside, the network of lights connecting the stars pulsed brighter. And somewhere in the distance, humanity took its first conscious step toward joining a conversation that had been waiting for them since the beginning of time.